Hello.
All the congratulations. It's a hell of a record, Visions of a Life, and that's, I think, no small feat considering everything that you guys might have been up against for this one, which I guess is perception on my part. I don't know if that's how you felt about it. I mean, it's the second album. You guys had, a smash first record. Is there a lot of pressure going into this one?
Pressure from ourselves, I think. I mean, obviously there's people that maybe have some level of expectation outside the four of us, but going in to do a second record, you kind of just got to please yourself. You don't have the luxury of kind of touring and playing different material like you did when you were kind of putting together the first one. So this writing and recording a second record, you really just need to back yourself and kind of please yourself, really. And that's all we were kind of trying to do. Hope, kind of crossing our fingers in the knowledge that, if we were gratifying our own kind of artistic endeavor, then, other people would be gratified from the product.
You think that's such an obvious thing that I don't think not a lot of bands, but some bands obviously don't get. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have the cliche of the sophomore slump. But I don't know, because a lot of that, especially when you guys are on the track that you were on, it leads to probably having to write a lot of this on the road, and you get the road records. But when I listen to this, I don't hear a road record at all, and I don't know if you guys were conscious of that.
I think a lot. I think a lot happened in people's personal lives during the touring, and that informed a lot of the writing. A lot of the writing was done on the road, as you say, but it's kind of impossible to see an idea through to the end when you're on the road. Just because of kind of practical kind of problems. You can't all just set up in a room somewhere and practice and record stuff. You've got places to be and people to meet and all that kind of stuff. So the 2 years that we were kind of on tour after recording the record, everyone was it was almost like everyone was sketching, and at the end of the 2-year touring became, we got ourselves a little rehearsal room and we started looking at the sketches, and we maybe had 50, 60 plus kind of half ideas, half songs, a couple of riffs, a couple of musical ideas, and just started to kind of work through them and kind of go, what feels good? And that was more or less the process, really.
I think it's actually one of the most impressive things about this record is there's so many different styles on it. Is that, because I probably hear it differently than you hear it, especially when you're the songwriter, you definitely do hear things differently, but it feels very varied in a way that I found surprising, and I don't know. I wonder if you would attribute that to just because so much of this was written sort of, as you're saying, almost like piecemeal.
No, I'd say for us, musical output is always a reflection of songwriting, and certain songs need a certain kind of mood to put them in the right context, and a song like Yuck Fu, it's a song about anger, and how do you make something sound angry? You make it sound, you make it as aggressive as possible. You kind of bump up the higher frequencies. You kind of make the guitar sound a little bit gnarlier. Your approach is aggressive. Whereas if you're doing something like After the 0 Hour, or maybe Don't Delete the Kisses, or something that has a kind of softer kind of sentiment behind the songwriting, you take a fresh look at it and say, okay, what does the song need in order for it to achieve its potential? And that's kind of musical context, really.
Where did the sound of Don't Delete the Kisses come from? Because I know the story coming from the lyrics about a kind of a straight ahead love song, but that, I mean, I don't know what the guitar is doing or something. Is that just messing around, or the music in that song, or what? Because it's such an interesting happening that's going on behind those lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of synth in that one. That was kind of it was a real challenge for us, because we're not really too well versed in synthesis. So yeah, I mean, there is a load of guitar in there, a lot of textural kind of stuff going on in the background, but it always just felt appropriate for that song to have synthesizers in. Maybe because we wanted to kind of give it that kind of, I don't know, driving feel, or it's a hard one. It's a hard one to kind of voice the decision behind that one, really, because it just felt appropriate.
It's one of those songs, the first time you hear it, it's so grabbing. In fact, I had a guy that I work with just a few hours ago kind of bring that up. It was one of the first times he had heard it, and it was one of those like, what was that moments, which is, I think it was what we all like connecting to, having those little moments. It's anyway, the compliments is what I'm giving you here, trying to anyway,
well, no.
because...
Oh, no, thank you. That's definitely an intention. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You mentioned Yuck Fu, of course. It's such an interesting part of the record that you guys come out swinging because it defies everything anyone knew about you at that point, and that's got to be fun, catching everyone off guard like that.
Completely. Some of our favorite records and some of our favorite artists, they do that, and it's so exciting. Whenever Beck releases a record, people aren't expecting anything other than to be, surprised. They're not expecting something to sound like Beck, because, what does Beck sound like?
Right.
Or someone like Patrick Wolf, who's a big influence on us. What's more exciting than that, and what's more kind of artistically liberating than kind of being able to just do what you want?
Yeah. Step back and let everybody else wrestle over what it means.
I know, right? It's music.
Although I will say, some songs are great, for the perfect time and the perfect place, and it is an angry song, and it's a time when I think we're all angrier. I've followed what you guys have done with things that you're speaking out about with refugees and everything like that, and I certainly feel like that comes out on this record too. I don't know. I mean, you've had the luxury of watching both of our countries go through just a really messy time.
I don't know if that's a privilege or
well, that's what I'm wondering is I feel like you get to see this through a bigger lens than even some of us do, who are so in the blinders of what's going on here, because it's almost nearly identical to what's going on in the UK. How's that affected you all?
It can't help but affect you. I think we're all kind of painful lefties, Wolf Alice, really, all of us. And the left has been very quiet over the last couple of years, and kind of, I think all the stuff that's happened has just kind of finally gotten the community of, the left-wing political community in the UK kind of a little bit more mobilized, and kind of, I think we're a reflection of that, and the kind of stupid fucking things that have happened in the last 2 years are kind of unbelievable. You wouldn't believe it if someone told you a couple of years ago that all this would happen. You just go, all right, well, you've got to take some responsibility. If the right's been mobilized enough to make all these changes and make this stupid stuff happen, make Brexit happen, make Trump happen, all this stuff, then you've got to take some responsibility and go, all right, we've got to stand up and communicate our views,
which I appreciate entirely. Did it, when you were touring through it, is there a strong difference, I would say, between the two? Especially I'm guessing Middle America, when you're driving through it versus whatever the parallel is, for the UK and something like that. Were you getting a sense, of the? I guess what I'm saying is, were you getting a sense of the opposition?
Kind of. It's hard, when you're in a band. You're in such a bubble. Mm-hmm. We live in a bus, and go to a music venue, and a load of music fans turn up, and those are the kind of those are the people we meet. And we go to radio stations and talk to like-minded individuals such as yourself. So we definitely do live in somewhat of a bubble. So it's kind of difficult to see that. But I don't know. You just got to turn on Fox News, really, haven't you, when you're over here to get a picture of that.
You don't have to turn it on, but it's
no.
I would recommend not turning it on.
It's interesting though. It's interesting to get the other side.
Yeah.
What kind of very kind of loose opinion they have, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Beyond all of that, this documentary sounds so interesting, and this isn't a straight ahead. Can you talk about what the actual slant is on this, because it's not what you would just think of as a band rock doc, road doc, right?
Yeah, well, it's in many ways it's nothing to do with us at all. Mm-hmm. We kind of feature as extras almost, really, to be honest, in a fictional love story set in a non-fictional tour. Two crew members who were actors planted in our crew, and the stories about their relationship within the context of a Wolf Alice tour.
Yeah. Did you guys come up with the idea, or was this the director that came to you?
Oh no, like I said, we really have little to do with. We had very little to do with it at all.
Wow.
It's a producer called Michael Winterbottom. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know the film 24 Hour Party People.
Oh, I've seen it many times.
Well, that was him. He's done numerous other things. And it was an idea he had quite some time ago, I think. Funnily enough, a little bit strange serendipity. He was in talks with our current manager, maybe 15 years prior. He was talking to our manager about the band that he was managing at the time. And they were a band called Ash. So it's an idea that he's wanted to do for a very long time, I think. And we got to do it, what was it, almost 2 years ago now. They came on tour, on our UK tour.
I can't wait to see it. It really does. It just sounds so interesting to me, the way it's spun. And fresh, I guess, is the word when you're talking about these type of things.
Yeah, It's interesting. I mean, I'd question whether it's of, of vast interest to anyone that's not particularly interested in Wolf Alice. But I think it's an interesting insight into tour.
Well, there's a lot of people, luckily, that's interested in Wolf Alice these days. So, and again, it was nice talking to you. It was a pleasure, and thanks for this record. It really is just a hell of a comp. So I appreciate the talk about it too.
Oh well, thank you so much. Thank you for supporting and getting involved. And hopefully we'll see you down at a show someday in the
Would love to. All right, man. Well, take care.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
You too. Bye.